I object. Fuck your objection. The unexpected halt of proceedings sent a clamor around the courtroom. But outside the Bailey, where Londoners knew nothing of the secret trial within, it was a typical still night. Then, at a little past 8 o'clock that evening, Mr. Sholmes and his partner returned to Baker Street. Yeah, but Gregson was also shot in that room. I feel like the clothes are covering up something. Or actually, never mind, because he was inside the trunk, that's why. You have returned, my dear fellows. Welcome back to Britain, and thank you for your timely help. Think nothing of it. I believe you had an even more wearing day than Mikotoba and I know. You can say that. You're on the brink of defeat in court earlier. So this prosecutor, Asogi, had you on the ropes, did he? And he's your best friend, you say? Well, he's not really the man I knew in Japan anymore. Kazuma's changed. Oh, Mr. Naruhodo. I mean, it's incredible to think that he'd even entertain the idea of acting as the Reaper's assassin. Well, nevertheless, you must introduce me. After all, I've only ever met the young man as a corpse. When all this started, almost a year ago now, Mr. Sholmes still hasn't told us the truth about what really happened back then. About the motivation for what he himself described as the great detective's lie. Now then, I must say, it's really quite a journey all the way to France. Well, it is another country, Mr. Sholmes, so what news of Judge Goku? Took him to Scotland Yard. The investigating detectives there have a lot of questions for the man. Poor Professor Mikotoba. This might be quite a shock for him. Oh yes, I picked this up at the telegraph office on our way home. What is it? Gritty Sholmes on his way to solve the case. W. Sholmes. Surely you have forgotten already. You haven't forgotten already. I put upon you for the matter only yesterday. You put upon me, Sholmes? I had to fill out your telegram to Japan and foot the bill as well. Oh, you've had a reply already? What's so urgent though, Mr. Sholmes? Such matters can wait until later. I'm far too hungry for an involved conversation at present. Well, that's good news, because supper is ready, everyone. And what a feast it is! If I were none the wiser, I'd think the trial were won already. Roast beef, kippers, stew, steak, and kidney pie. Yorkshire pudding. Tomorrow could be a very long day, so eat up. In that case, I think I'll seat myself just here. This place appears to be the only one set with a helping of pheasant as well. Oh, sorry, Hurley, not there. Why ever not? Yes, and that place is for Susie's daddy. For me? That's right. I made it especially for you, Professor Miki. Mikey? I see. Well, that's terribly kind of you. Aw, it's a shame, really. What do you mean? Well, for a brief moment, I believed it. That Susie and I were half-sisters, I mean. Oh! Oh, shit. Iris, do you mean... Yes, I know now. I overheard yesterday. I secretly listened in on the conversation you had. After I tricked you all into thinking I'd left. What? Fucking Sholmes. The misunderstanding arose because of that autopsy report from 10 years ago. Stepsister? Yeah, there's like this whole thing. Because her father that we thought was her father died in Japan in the first game. but it actually might not be her father? But actually, it turns out that neither Dr. Wilson nor Professor Mikotoba are Iris' father. Yes, about that, Iris. You know I know. You can't tell me at the moment. Oh, Iris. Is she stuck? Ayo. Ayo. The pheasant is by way of an apology. I'm sorry for eavesdropping. Oh, no. That's quite alright. And why do I get a apologetic pheasant? So just who is Iris' father? I suppose that's not something we'll be finding out today. Ah, damn. So then, let us dine, while our largely pheasantless plates are still piping hot. A fine idea, Sholmes. It all looks absolutely delicious. Eat as much as you like. There are always seconds. This could be our last chance to ask questions before tomorrow's trial. About that telegram from Japan. And about Cosmo. Can't let this opportunity slip away. Mr. Sholmes, what are you doing? My head! Surely it's abundantly clear. I wasn't brooding over Mikotoba's refusal to share his pheasant with me. Nevertheless, I felt the need to withdraw from the social circle for a while and look on with hungry eyes. Sorry, Hurley. But I cooked that pheasant especially for Susie's daddy. Even though I played the role of father for you for far longer. Mr. Sholmes, can I discuss some things with you? Certainly, my dear fellow. I find myself quite in the mood for a spell of conversation. No doubt. You're hungry to learn more of my deep love of game. I could probably contain my curiosity on that one. You need to look at me in that fashion. In what fashion? It seems that before we discuss the pheasant, we have some rather unpheasant matters to discuss. Who could be Iris' father? The real question is she like part Japanese maybe? We have a Herlock Sholmes. What's next? A Von Wilkes Booth? Maybe. And Herlock Sholmes isn't his actual real name. We actually don't know his real name. So what was in the telegram you received back from Japan then? Ah, this? I thank my lucky stars it arrived in time. Record found as indicated. Duplicate follows. Kayasogi /A Sin. T. Gregson /J. Wilson. What? Those 4 names. We've come across the exact same list before. This was the list at the end of the game, at the end of the first game. It came up in that unforgettable case last spring. What appeared to be a simple case of aggravated murder turned out to be masking monumental intrigue. A plot that involved the sale of British governmental secrets to foreign states. In exposing the means by which those secrets were being leaked, we deciphered a fragment of the message. Kayasogi, A. Shin, T. Gregson, J. Wilson. We didn't find the names out until the case was over, and we never did get to the bottom of what they meant. It's one chick. Hey, yo. It's John Fortnite. All we knew was that the information had been sent by somebody in the British government to somebody in Japan. So why are the names coming up again now? Yes, where did the sender of the telegram discover them, Mr. Sholmes? I have here the message I have wired yesterday. Allow me to read it to you. Enter Judge Shikoku's office undetected and investigate telegram records. Expect to find communication from Britain dated 1 year ago. List of 4 names. Need by tomorrow. Naruhodo. I sent it to a detective I know who specializes in clandestine missions of this nature. It's Hosonaga! And in my name? I wonder what guise he opted for this time. My dear fellows, with a matter of great urgency, you understand. Anyway, the list of names was found in Sashiro's office, as Sholmes predicted. So you mean, that mysterious collection of names that was sent from Britain to Japan was... It was sent by Judge Jikoku? He was the intended recipient? I don't believe it. Sorry, but that doesn't answer the question of what the list of names actually signifies. I did formulate a hypothesis about that, but without a shred of evidence, I couldn't possibly have shared it. Mr. Sholmes looks deadly serious for once. Is this everybody who's part of the Reaper shenanigans? This must be the old, the organization of the Reaper of the Bailey, right? That tragedy we had to go through on the SS Bureau. Here it goes, Goo. Yeah, Jiro's hypothesis. It was all for nothing. Cosmo wasn't dead at all. We were completely taken by the lie you told us. You told your great detective's lie. I took no pleasure in deceiving you. However, at the time, all that concerned me was preventing the young man's study tour from taking place, whatever the cost. What? I capitalized on the events that transpired to see that he was sent back to Japan. His remains, you mean? Precisely, Mr. Sato. And then, I made sure that somebody else was sent to Britain in his stead. Oh my, you mean... The arrangement between our two countries was already in place. One university student lawyer and one judicial assistant to be accommodated on a study tour. In other words, by arranging for somebody else to fill the place originally intended for Mr. Asogi, it would successfully prevent the man from arriving on the shores for several years at least. Wait, do you mean to say that it was all in aid of stopping Cosmo coming to Britain? That's why you... Think back, Mr. Naruhodo. Was there not somebody who quite casually urged you to continue on the voyage to England? My dear fellows, what if everything was set so Cosmo's father was blamed as the professor to cover for the Reaper? The judge was the one that caused Cosmo's father to be found guilty. He is part of it. Aishin was the real assassin. Inferior ass. Well, Aishin is the Giselle Brett that died. Unless that was also a cover-up. There's a lot of cover-ups going on, bro. I don't doubt anything at this point. All you require is one lawyer and one study tour, and then the study tour can continue, surely? Alright, come on. So you manipulated me? I've often remarked on the extraordinary lengths to which friendship will drive a man. I was quite sure that you would rise to the challenge for your late friend. I don't believe it. But it was all contrived. I mean, what happened was treated by the authorities as murder. A woman was mistakenly arrested as the perpetrator. What do you suppose became of her? Naturally, I didn't allow the misapprehension to have any serious repercussions. I subsequently explained everything and assisted the unfortunate soul in finding the foreign refuge she sought. I seem to remember Mr. Sato and I had some rather strong words for her. Well, she was certainly not devoid of all guilt. She deserved every word, I'm sure. I wonder if she made it to America then. I'm afraid I simply cannot comprehend it. Why would you go to such lengths, Mr. Sholmes? How are you so determined to stop Cosmo-sama from reaching Britain? Truth is, 12 months ago, there was already a very tangible omen of the impending tragedy, you see. Oh. An omen that, at this very moment in time, is close at hand. An omen of all these tragic events that already existed a year ago? Is that close at hand? We need to find out exactly what Mr. Sholmes knows. Maybe she died when she was about to be found out. No, I don't know if you remember the first trial of this game. It was that reporter dude that stabbed her through the tent. There was no room for doubt with your instructions in this telegram, Mr. Sholmes. You were very clear that it was Judge Chikoku's office that should be searched, so... Why did the reporter do that? The reporter killed her because she killed a man in Japan, and she was about to get off scot-free because Great Britain pretty much told Japan to like bring her back and we'll deal with her. So he pretty much took quote-unquote justice into his own hands and killed her. Which honestly might have saved this entire thing. Well, we'll see. You obviously knew that there was the list of names would be found. Justice. Kuwana type shit? Kuwana type shit, bruh. We only learned of those 4 names just over 6 months ago now. And only because they appeared as part of the top secret government communications that were leaked. That's true, yes. But at the time, you were unaware of the background. You see, those 4 names were wired to Japan. Around 6 months before that, approximately, this time last year, in fact, when you were both still in Japan. It really would be hypocrisy on my part to reprove others for intercepting state secrets. Because after all, I'm perpetually eavesdropping on communication between the British and Japanese governments. You're perpetually doing what? How? Never mind the details, but you should know. No secret is safe from Herlock Sholmes when he has designs on knowing it. Oh my, Mr. Sholmes. What a fabulous line. Now, 1 month after that list of 4 names was wired to the recipient, Chikoku in Japan, Dr. John H. Wilson was murdered. I love this song. As soon as I learned of the incident, a hypothesis rapidly took shape in my mind. As it turned out, I was partly correct and partly mistaken. Nevertheless, it was the beginning of all the tragic events that were to follow. Mr. Sholmes, please, tell us all you know. Tell us about these 4 names and the tragedy to which they're all somehow connected. As I said, when I learned of Dr. Wilson's murder in Japan, my mind immediately turned to those 4 names because you see, there's someone else on the list who I believe to be recently deceased. What? Who? Ei Shin. Sorry. As it was transcribed in Japanese script, in actual fact, Miss Asa Shin. That was a familiar name to me. She was a professional killer, well known among London's unsavory classes. Oh, I see. But she had completely vanished from existence several months before Wilson's murder. So I came to the logical conclusion that she had herself been killed. and accordingly, I became fearful for the lives of the remaining 2 persons on the list. Kei Asogi and T. Gregson. Owing to our proximity, I decided to take measures to protect Gregson myself. But I determined it would be safest if young Asogi were to stay away from Britain. So that's why you went to such lengths to prevent his study tour from going ahead. Exactly. So you already knew who Cosmo-sama was, Mr. Sholmes? Oh yes, Sholmes and I have exchanged correspondence for years. I recounted many tales about Asogi to him in my letters, and to the news of Dr. Wilson's death, of course. So, Dr. Wilson is dead then? I didn't know. Oh, Iris. I knew he wasn't my daddy, but still. That's very sad. I'm so sorry, Iris. We knew the significance of the name, obviously, but we just couldn't bring ourselves to tell you. No. What you just told us, Mr. Sholmes, doesn't completely tie in with the facts. There's one big hole in your hypothesis. A big hole, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes. You mean about Asa Shin, I presume? Oh, of course. Exactly. She wasn't killed, was she? She was in Japan, posing as a visiting student under the name Jazeel Brett. I'm glad you're keeping it up, my dear fellow. But I only became aware of the fact 2 days ago, in the foyer of the Great Waterloo Hotel. And upon hearing that startling revelation, the hypothesis that I formed surrounding those 4 names was completely turned topsy. What? Topsy? Yeah, something like that, Juro. What do you mean when you say your hypothesis was turned topsy, Mr. Sholmes? I believed all 4 names on the list to be the names of victims. However, I was mistaken. Very much so. Asa Shin was a killer. There's no telegram is a list of both victims and killers, is it? Indeed, and it would seem that Miss Shin was dispatched from Britain with the sole intention of dispatching Dr. Wilson. Her visiting student status being merely a front. Which would, of course, explain why no motive could be determined for her actions. So the real reason Dr. Wilson was killed by Asa Shin is because he was the target of an assassination. And forearmed with that knowledge, fresh consideration of this telegram puts the list in a very different perspective. What do you mean? Well, does it not strike you? There was another among the 4, who subsequently became a visiting student. Wait, you mean... Of course, a name you know only too well. You mean Kazuma? Oh, he did say in court earlier today. Yes, on the 31st of October, I accompanied Inspector Gregson to Dunkirk in order to carry out a mission. And the mission was the assassination of the Mark. Young Mr. Asogi accepted that mission a year ago now. Surely not. In conclusion, this document is a contract of sorts. An international agreement, one might say, detailing an assassin exchange. An assassin exchange? How could Cosmo possibly have gotten involved in something like that? But why? Let's assume that we have 2 parties, each wishing to dispose of a distinct individual. Those 2 parties then make a contract to swap their respective assassination targets. That would then be an assassin exchange. So, to begin with, the British assassin is dispatched as a visiting student in Japan, where she kills her target. And then the Japanese assassin is dispatched as a visiting student to Britain in order to eliminate his target. It certainly does sound like an exchange. I don't understand this game at all. Well, you literally are at the last trial of 2 games. So I don't blame you. But what on earth is the point? Don't forget, Naruhodo, that the British assassin at least escaped conviction. Thanks to diplomatic immunity afforded by consular jurisdiction. Oh, yes. Such jurisdiction should be null and void under the terms of the new treaty between our 2 countries. So the fact that it was brought into place suggests intervention at the very highest levels. The highest levels? This all makes sense now. These murders were 2 sides of the same coin, linked not by a common motive, but by a contractual agreement. As such, they appeared utterly unrelated, yet in truth, the assassins were complicit in one singular devilish scheme. That disassociation and the safeguard of diplomatic immunity were, I believe, the motivation behind this plot. So they were trying to abolish this? But wait a minute, Sholmes. If this telegram really is describing the exchange of assassins you're suggesting, it would mean that the Japanese killer's target was never Shishiro Jikoku at all. Miyasoki's target was actually Inspector Gregson. What? Cosmo was here for Gregson? So Judge Shikoku wasn't actually the mark? Yes, that's exactly what it would mean. I hold myself personally responsible for failing to keep the inspector safe. Mr. Sholmes. I told him of my fears and implored him to seek a transfer to an overseas position. Obviously, with the young pickpocket in tow. Yes, Gina. Come to think of it, Inspector Gregson didn't mention that to us at a great exhibition. That he'd be transferred to Paris police and taking Gina with him. But without informing me, he engaged in one last assignment, it seems. And sadly, it turned out to be his very last. Wow. This is too much to take in. Wow. This shit's going insane. Alright, everyone. That's quite enough of all that serious talk for one day. Isn't it, Hurley? I mean, look at the time. Ah, quite right, Iris. We must conclude our preparations for tomorrow. What preparations? Well, I think I should make my way back to the hotel room now. This has certainly been a night to remember. It is. A little bit sad, though. I mean, I like the idea of you being my daddy. Because then Susie would have been my big sister. I'm sorry, Iris. I know, Iris. I was thinking quite the same thing. Were you? But if somebody like me would be worthy, I would be delighted to become your sister. What? Really? Oh yes, without question. So, you'll teach me all the ways you know to throw Runo to the floor? Yes, yes, of course. It would be my pleasure. You didn't have to agree quite so readily. Oh, but wait a minute. If Susie's going to be my big sister, you'd be my big brother if you want, Runo. Hmm? I mean, yes, of course. If you have me, I'll gladly be your brother. Well done, Iris. Must always be mindful of Felix. I've raised you so well. Fucking Sholmes. What if Sholmes is actually her father? Because being sensitive is your strong suit, naturally. Right, I'm going to work extra hard for tomorrow now, because it's for my big brother and sister. What is all this talk about preparing for tomorrow? Preparing what? You just have to wait and see. Oh. Daddy Sholmes? Hey, yo. Good luck in court tomorrow. I'm expecting a sterling performance. I'll do my very best, of course. Wow, that was a lot of information to take in, bro. That was a lot of information. So Cosmo's an assassin, but for what? Like, why assassinate? I guess Cosmo was faking his contribution to this exchange because he knew the same person that asked for the assassination was the one. He gives it to him the time he was supposed to expose them in something. I think he wants to get, because I feel like his father really isn't the professor, and he's trying to get to the bottom of it. So he took up that assassination thing. But that doesn't explain how Gregson died. And why was Judge Shikoku doing this? It's a real question. Well, the judge decided to make shame himself. I'm not gonna lie, Jiro. That's a lot of words. I honestly just skimmed through that. I felt as though I had plunged into an even greater darkness all of a sudden. But at the same time, I felt I surely would see the light again soon. Aww, look at the squad, bro. Because I was lucky enough to have the most wonderful family in the world, standing steadfastly behind me. Aww. Before we begin, I have a brief announcement. As with the closed trial 10 years ago, some astonishing facts have come to light in these proceedings. The revelation that well-known Reaper is actually an organization illegally executing its own brand of justice. The discovery that a respected yard inspector was at its heart until he himself perished in an assassination plot. Well, I say to all members of the judiciary here present on this occasion that we will stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. Counsels, you will undertake this trial with the resolve to pursue the truth to the bitter end. Resolve. Yes, that's my intention. Crusty hands for better grip. That is so fucking gross, bro. My lord, if I may acquire, the defendant may speak. On what grounds is Kazuma Asogi permitted to continue in his role as prosecutor? He admitted to colluding with the victim in a plot to assassinate an innocent man. You shouldn't be enjoying the privilege of freedom, let alone be leading the prosecution. I submitted a written petition to Lord Strongheart, requesting that judgment of my transgressions be delayed by 1 day. You did what? In today's proceedings, I intend to expose everything. My whole life for the last 10 years has all been leading up to this 1 day. Kazuma. Whatever the outcome of this trial, I give my word that I will accept whatever punishment is deemed appropriate, however severe. I suggest you prepare yourself for the same, Reaper. Kazuma is bristling with hostility today. I get the distinct impression we're heading into a very dangerous territory. Is that even really Kazuma-sama standing before us? As an extreme exception to normal practices, I have granted this prosecutor's request. The defense finds this acceptable, I presume? Yes, my lord. In that case, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again. We resume the closed hearing of Barak van Zykes. The defense is ready, my lord. Frame me? I got robbed of my freedom there. Maybe you can talk with Steven. Prosecution is more than ready. Very well then. This preamble has taken long enough. Prosecutor Asogi, begin. As you wish, my lord. Prosecution calls the first witness to the stand. Bring Sashiro Jikoku into the courtroom. What is the funny, really mad guy? I don't know. like the other one. Whatever, you can keep it for now, I guess. Excuse me. He's putting literally everything on the line now in order to get the truth. Come on, Ryunosuke, it's time for that steely resolve, because this is going to be This is going to test it to its limits. Witness, state your name and occupation for the court. So it was you who issued this, was it? Your subpoena? I did what was necessary. Well, look what the young man has become. I didn't think I'd see the day when you take that tone with me, I must say. The witness will ensure his responses are pertinent to the questions asked. My name is Seshiro Jikoku, a Supreme Court judge from the Empire of Japan. 16 years ago, this man came to London as a visiting student. 6 years later, he returned to Japan. As well as presiding over the Supreme Court, he is also currently Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs. I am, of course, fully aware of Mr. Jikoku and his preeminent roles. I invite him personally to the International Forensic Science Symposium as a representative of his country. I hear he also played a key role in the conclusion of the Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation. It was a great honor to be involved in the negotiations and put my all into that treaty. Judge Jikoku, I must ask. Well, I never. Fancy the young murdering student turning up here of all places. You acquitted me yourself. No, I'm a practicing defense lawyer. Yes, and full of self-importance like your friend across the courtroom. I see. Came here to London by invitation to the International Forensic Science Symposium. But then, without informing anyone of your plans, you took flight to France. Took flight? I'd have to object to that turn of phrase. And explain yourself. What exactly were the circumstances? Well, I was somewhat expecting this. And I'm sorry to say, I decline to comment. What? Moving the country prematurely when I was invited guest may be questionable etiquette. But my decision is unrelated to this case. I can't be bound to testify. Unrelated, you say? I appreciate that a respected police inspector has been killed, for which I offer my condolences. However, being an alien, I obviously never met the man, nor do I know the first thing about him. As such, I'm in no position to testify. It's as simple as that. So you would run from all this? I beg your pardon? This case is more far-reaching than the murder of Inspector Gregson. It has ties to another murder, a case that was tried in Japan almost a year ago now. A year ago in Japan? The murder of Dr. John H. Wilson, you mean? That's right. And you, Judge Jikoku, are at the heart of both cases. The defense has evidence to prove it. Well, Ryunosuke, I see from the look in your eyes that you're resolved to carry this through to the very end, too. Let's see your evidence, then. What proof do you have that Seshiro Jikoku was involved in this case?
Take that!
This is a telegram detailing a communication sent between Britain and Japan approximately 1 year ago. Communication contained 4 names: Kei Asogi, A. Shin, T. Gregson, and J. Wilson. You little... Where did you get that? In Tokyo. From your office, Judge Jikoku. What? How on earth did you... What's this all about? Why is my name on that list? The list of 4 names follows a certain pattern. T. Gregson and J. Wilson are the names of victims. Kei Asogi and A. Shin are the names of assassins. No. A year ago in Tokyo, Dr. John H. Wilson's life was taken in a Western-style restaurant in the capital. The culprit was found to be a visiting student who went by the name of Jazeel Brett. But her real name was Asa Shin, a professional killer sent on a mission to kill from Great Britain. A. Shin and her victim, Jay Wilson. The murder that just took place here in London was the counterpart of that crime. An assassin sent from Japan, also a visiting student, Kazuma Asogi, whose victim was the British police inspector, Tobias Gregson. K. Asogi and T. Gregson. One assassin from each country to kill a target residing in the other. What exactly is the defense suggesting? These two cases of murder, one that took place in Britain and one in Japan, were masterminded by a pair of individuals from each country as a form of an assassin exchange. The telegram the defense has acquired is proof of this international contract to kill. Excuse me. The telegram was found in your office, Judge Jikoku. In other words, the mastermind in Japan was you. Judge Jikoku? What's this all about? So does Kazuma not know his name's on there, or is he just playing coy? And you, Kazuma, you lied. During yesterday's proceedings, you acknowledged that you accepted the assassination mission. But the mark wasn't Judge Jikoku at all. It was T. Gregson, Detective Inspector of Scotland Yard, as shown by the name on the killing contract. Very impressive, Ryunosuke. But actually, I didn't lie. The name of the target I was ordered to kill never passed my lips yesterday. The idea that Sashiro Jikoku was the mark came entirely from you. Ah, you deliberately avoid saying a name? The defense claims these four names indicate some sort of international assassin exchange. I'm sure I speak for all present when I say that the very idea seems utterly absurd. Well, Mr. Jikoku, what do you have to say for yourself? I like how he stands up. His silence only goes to prove his guilt. There's another very important point that this new development brings to light. There's now a distinct possibility that the scene of the Inspector Gregson's actual murder was in the witness's cabin aboard the SS Grouse. Judge Jikoku, you have to testify now. To refuse would put you in a contempt of court. There's no need for quite such a vicious stare, young man. Very well then. As a parting gift to you all, I'll tell you everything I know. It seems this Japanese gentleman has information that the court must hear about the alleged assassin exchange in the events of the night of the 31st October. Present your formal testimony now. As you wish, my lord. Witness's testimony. It's true that Kazuma Asogi was assigned the assassination mission 1 year ago now. Target was Inspector T. Gregson. That was a condition of the British study tour. However, in the end, something happened. That meant the young man was unable to carry out his mission. On the evening in question, a member of the crew was on duty outside my cabin at all times. If there had been a shot fired, the crewman would have heard it, so clearly I can't be involved. You bribed him. So you admitted then. As this communication suggests, there really was an assassin exchange arrangement between Britain and Japan. A political endeavor at the highest levels. Not something I can discuss here. To use such a worthy practice as foreign study to coerce somebody to commit murder. It's the most appalling thing I've ever heard. Appalling? Well, it's easy to judge. Pardon? Sogi had a reason for taking a sword to that British inspector, you know. Oh. Because Gregson was the one that pretty much put the nail in the coffin for his father. What? Which is why he accepted the mission in the first place. Isn't that right, Counsel? Kazuma-sama? Judge Jikoku, if you are the mastermind behind this operation in Japan, then tell the court the identity of your counterpart in Britain. I'm not obliged to divulge that information. As I said yesterday, I've killed nobody. I freely admit that I accepted the mission, but on the night the plan was to be executed, I backed out. In short, the assassin exchange the defense has identified is unrelated to the events of this case. The crucial point is this. Your police inspector cannot have perished aboard the steamship in Dunkirk. Because if he had been shot in the cabin, it's inconceivable that a member of the crew would have heard it. That's right. Gregson was killed after returning to London in the room of Fresno Street. And the perpetrator of the crime was the Reaper, Barak van Zykes. Prosecution's accusation remains unchanged. To think that a seemingly innocent foreign exchange program was a facade for such... but, okay, let's say that word. Clearly it's a plot only a government minister and a high-ranking judge such as the witness could hope to execute. Well, I seem to recall that it was someone on the British side who controlled everything. Be that as it may, it is not the place of this court to pursue this villainous assassin exchange plot. It's him. It's him. It's Strongheart. We are concerned only with the tangible events pertaining to the murder of Inspector Gregson. Is the defense clear on that point, counsel? Yes, my lord. Interesting you say that, Strongheart. Right. See these little things all over the place, don't you? It's part of the top pocket watch you twist to set the time, isn't it? It's called the crown, I believe. A watch would be quite useless without one. The crown? Like what sits on top of a monarch's head? That's a very grand name for such a tiny part. But actually, yes, Mr. Naruto? If this is a crown, I have a feeling I might have seen a monarch around here somewhere with a very bare head. By monarch you mean pocket watch, then I'm quite sure you have. What do you think, Mr. Sato? I feel sure I know exactly what will fit here. Really? I was just thinking precisely the same thing. We're about to see that little round component. It's actually part of Inspector Gregson's broken pocket watch. Really? I was just thinking precisely that too. Perfect fit. I knew it. Alright, perhaps you knew it. I'll make a note of this new information at once. Alright, well there's the evidence we needed for him to be part of this.
Objection!
Good eye, Jiro, good eye, good eye. Yes, it's a court heard. There's a crewman posted outside Judge Koku's cabin. However, we can be sure that contrary to that witness's claim, the guard wasn't there at all times. What? I have here a notice of a particular event that was scheduled to take place aboard the steamship on the 31st. What? Where'd you get that? It's evidence gathered by Mr. Herlock Sholmes. You were acquainted yesterday, if you remember. Herlock Sholmes again. According to this itinerary, After leaving the port of Dunkirk at exactly 10 p.m. and for a period of 20 minutes, all crewmen of the SS Grouse were to gather on deck for an evacuation drill. All crewmen were away from their posts. And during that 20-minute interval, of course, any gunshots emanating from your cabin would have been heard by no one. In summary, Judge Shikoku, you had an ample opportunity to commit the crime.
Objection.
Objection! A 20-minute window of opportunity. That's an excellent find, Ryunosuke. But it amounts to nothing. Why? Because the witness clearly stated in his testimony that no incident occurred in his cabin. Unless you have some decisive evidence that can show his testimony to be false. Your accusations is nothing more than conjecture. Very true. Very well, counsel. I have something. Inspector Gregson was killed in Judge Shikoku's cabin that night. I'm certain of it. Because the defense has the evidence to prove it. We will present the evidence for the defense at once, counsel.
Take that!
Judge Shikoku, this was found in your cabin yesterday. What is that? The crown of a pocket watch? A pocket watch? And if you will observe, the victim's pocket watch, which we know he treasured, is missing precisely that part. It can't be. Moreover, this crown is a perfect fit on the spindle protruding from the victim's watch. Now, the fact that this was retrieved from Judge Shikoku's cabin tells us that the victim's watch almost certainly broke there. In other words, the victim was killed on the 31st during the 20-minute evacuation drill. In the cabin occupied by you, Judge Shikoku. Is he gonna break the witness stand again? Well, you're razor sharp, aren't you, you young murderer? Young murderer? He acquitted us!
Objection!
Objection! Expertly maneuvered, Ryunosuke. And your argument sounds entirely plausible. At first. But rather like this pocket watch, it's full of cracks. What? And I believe Judge Shikoku feels the same way. I was wrong to acquit you earlier in the year. Wow, what an asshole. Sorry? If I had known that it would result in anyone having to listen to this drivel, I would have declared you guilty just to spare the world you ridiculous bombast. Isn't that rude? I think it's clear that the witness will have to give further testimony. When you hear what actually happened to my cabin that night, you'll notice the pitfall into which you've stumbled. Prior to your renewed testimony, I would like to clarify one point. The fact that this part of the victim's watch was discovered in your cabin means that you acknowledged he was there, I presume? Yes, I do. Very well then. You may proceed to give your formal testimony. But what exactly happened in your cabin aboard the ship of the evening of the 31st October? Of course. As a man of the law, I have no intention of obstructing justice. You're doing it right now, you dead... Boo! That's literally what he's doing right now. You can't prove it. You know what I'm thinking now? What if he became a judge just to kind of fade away from the law? Like he's above the law now. So now he can like get away with shit like this. I had a guest waiting for me when I returned to my cabin after finishing my evening meal in the dining room. When I walked through the door, a mustached Englishman was there, foolishly waving a gun at me. I soon took care of him with an impop sayo throw, though. He couldn't wait to run away after that. I imagine his watch was broken when I threw him over my shoulder. It has nothing to do with his murder. The inspector was clearly killed having returned to Britain because his body was found in London. That's not how it happened. Like, no. Ippon Seoi? Common Jujutsu martial arts technique in my country. I was careful not to use too much force, but the man obviously landed too heavily for his watch to take. So Ryunosuke Naruhodo, I imagine you can see the flaw in your logic now, can't you? What? The fact that the pocket watch was broken in the witness's cabin in no way proves that the victim's murder took place there. I've no doubt the inspector was intended to kill me, but he didn't manage to pull the trigger. Yes, because he was merely the tactician, not the Reaper's hand of death. Well, the testimony appears to make perfect sense as far as I can tell. Because that was playing with Strongheart, maybe. But if this testimony holds, Judge Shikoku will be deemed to have had no involvement in the case. Well, counsel, I really see no reason for wasting precious court time here on a cross-examination. Sorry, my lord. The defense has a right to cross-examine, and I don't intend to squander that. You're an embarrassment to your countrymen, not knowing when you're beaten. In that case, proceed, Mr. Naruhodo. I think we gotta press him for more information. Because the so-called guard posted at your cabin door has just let your killer pass, you mean? Apparently, Gregson told the crewman he was a police inspector, which was the truth, of course. He wouldn't have had his identification with him, though. He had his trench coat and mustache, not to mention the bag of chips. I imagine the crewman was convinced. But the man accompanying him would have had 2 swords slung around his waist. You mean me? Who else? Yes, that's true. You would have hoped the sight of a few swords might have set off an alarm bells in the guard's head. The point is, I left the cabin before its occupant returned. I immediately disembarked the ship. Certainly, all I can tell you is that only the inspector was waiting for me when I arrived back in my cabin. And you entered without any inkling of suspicion? That's right. None whatsoever. Obviously, you're talking about Inspector Gregson. Yes. But at the time, I didn't know the man's name. There was no time for introductions. I value my life over manners. By which you mean that the inspector was there to assassinate you, I suppose? That was certainly the impression given by the gun pointing in my direction. I've never seen the muzzle of a revolver shake about so much in all my life. Anyone would think the man had never shot somebody before. Believe it or not, most of us haven't. Anyway, there's no time to call for the help of the crewman at the door, so I dealt with the man myself.
Hold it!
Even though the man had a gun? That was very brave. That was a very brave move, wasn't it? My opponent Saya is far faster than a bullet, I can assure you. But surely all that commotion caused the crewman to come in, didn't it? Yes, of course. He burst in immediately without knocking. The inspector hurled himself at the stocky fellow and just managed to slip past him to make his escape. The outstanding guard does it again. Luckily, there aren't many situations I can get out of using a quick Ippon Seoi throw. The crown snapped off and the glass covering the face of the watch was cracked. Preferable to the man's head being pulled off or his spine cracking, would you say? Not that the man was spared for long, a bullet to the chest soon saw that. But the point is, the broken pocket watch doesn't prove that a murder took place. Absolutely not. All the watch proves is the power of my jujutsu throw. Whatever you say, it doesn't quite ring true that no shot was fired in the cabin. Because there was an obvious bullet hole in the wall. What are you talking about? Hmm? That's what the star of your lowbrow detective stories told you, is it? Well, I don't care for such fiction. Haven't you worked it out yet, you little stripling? No murder took place in my cabin.
Hold it!
Well, there's no evidence that proves the victim ever returned to London alive. Just take a moment to think that idea of yours through now, stripling. What? If the inspector was killed on the steamship in France, how on earth could he have got back to Britain? When people die, their bodies remain at the same spot. It's a devil of a thing. The box with blood. Well, then obviously the culprit must have moved the body. How exactly? Carrying a corpse of a ship with your arms would raise a few eyebrows at least, don't you think? Can't stand games with long-ass dialogue? Well, this is a visual novel, so, I mean, that's the entirety of the game is reading. All passenger luggage is inspected when it's unloaded from arriving vessels. Now, I would like to think the border police would query the corpse of an English gentleman as hand luggage. If the murder had taken place aboard the ship, you would imagine the body would have been disposed of at sea. There'd be no sense in risking being caught by attempting to transport the body back to Britain. Ugh, that's killed the idea then. But perhaps not. Mr. Sato? You've heard that the first-class passengers were under constant scrutiny by the crewmen posted to guard them, which would mean that the culprit had no opportunity to dispose of the body in the sea. Yes, that's true. So transporting the body to Britain may have been the only viable alternative. Dear me, you really are new to this, aren't you? I thought I'd been perfectly clear, but it seems I'm going to have to explain it in words you can understand. I think I ought to alter my testimony with your consent, of course, my lord. I have no objection. State your amended testimony now.
Hold it!
There's an idea. Think about it, stripling. All passengers and crew disembarked at the same time and passed through the same checks at the border. The symposium guests were driven straight to the hotel in carriages organized by the ministry. And we met you as soon as you arrived at the hotel. So you did? Well then, remind me, did I have a corpse over my shoulder at the time? What? No. So we're in agreement then. We couldn't possibly have brought the inspector's body back to Britain. Unless, of course, they developed some clever device that these days to instantly move things from A to B. Funny you should say that. I guess a harebrained invention didn't actually work, if you remember, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, of course. The fence has become unusually quiet, I notice. Yes, because there's really nothing more to say. That's his story. Well, I suppose if you think about it, whenever you drop a teacup in the office and it breaks, we don't say, Mr. Naruhodo must have been murdered there, do we? Is that a veiled threat about what might happen to me if I break another one? And the fact is that Inspector Gregson's body was found in the little room on Fresno Street. He really was killed in Judge Jikoku's cabin. The body would have had to have been moved somehow, obviously. Transporting a dead body over a country border, that would be impossible for the majority of people. So it must have been some special circumstances that made it possible for the culprit then. That could be a vital realization, I think, Mr. Naruhodo. I don't think we actually got the luggage as a... Oh, wait! Why is his luggage in the picture?
Objection!
Oh, wait, I didn't even notice that! There's no possible way you could have moved Inspector Gregson's body, you say? I would say the opposite is true. Wow, I would have never have noticed if I didn't click that, bro. And what's that supposed to mean? Far from being impossible for you to do. The transporting of Inspector Gregson's body back to Britain is something only you can do. What are you talking about, Ryunosuke? As well as being a judge, Mr. Chikoku is also Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs. Which means he's exempt from having his luggage searched when he enters the country. We learned that when we first met you upon your arrival in London. Oh, that's right. I must say, I'm very envious of your ministerial status. You didn't have to go through any of that, did you? Is that Gregson's literally right there, bro? That's Gregson. I knew you were jealous. That's Gregson. I presume you recall this, Judge Chikoku. It's a group photograph we took in the foyer of the hotel to mark the occasion. As the court will know, you have with you your large travel trunk. Large enough, in fact, to have a corpse inside. Mr. Naruhodo, surely you're not suggesting... I'm afraid I am, yes. 3 days ago, when we were chatting innocently with the new arrivals from Japan in the hotel, the body of Inspector Gregson was just meters away from us, inside Judge Chikoku's trunk. That's fucked up. Order in court. I'm skeptical, counsel. That's a grown man's body could fit inside even the largest travel trunk. It could. Because I happen to know that the witness himself, a man of considerable size, fits inside his trunk. And verifying that would be extremely simple, wouldn't it, Judge Chikoku? But inside his trunk? How horrifying. And after we'd spoken with you at Great Waterloo Hotel, you had the opportunity to visit the apparent scene on the Fresno Street. Taking your trunk with you in a cab to deposit the inspector's body. I don't have to listen to this nonsense. Dr. Gory, the coroner who examined the body, has confirmed the possibility. He acknowledged there are signs that steps may have been taken to disguise the true time of death. The onset of the body's decomposition could have been delayed by storing it in a refrigerator. Counsel, as I remember explaining yesterday, refrigerators of the requisite size are few and far between. Yes, I'm sure they are, but one place they're certainly found is on large ocean liners. Large ocean liners, my bad. Such ships are equipped with electrically refrigerated cold rooms to keep food fresh on their long sea voyages. And the SS Grouse is no exception. Professor Mikotoba told me about it only yesterday. Well, Judge Chikoku? However much you prolong this debate, you can't eliminate the truth. All the evidence points to you being the killer. Well, this is all very heartening. I can see that it was a wise move, letting Asogi and you embark on this study tour. What are you talking about now? Logical reasoning, of course. All court proceedings will be built on logical reasoning in the new century. And I can see that you've both laid firm foundations for that already. Judge Chikoku, please stop diverting attention from the issue at hand. The defense has made an accusation against you. How do you respond? Respond? There's really no need for me to respond, is there? But I didn't actually kill anyone. I'm talking about you. Shut up, Nat. Because before you can even begin to answer the question of when the victim was killed, you must first establish one key fact. Motive. Where was the victim killed? It's quite logical. The actual scene of the crime. Prosecution's stance is unaltered. The killing took place on Fresno Street when the gunshot was heard. As the accused, Barak Van Zyke shot the victim at point-blank range. Since no tangible evidence exists to disprove the prosecution's claim at the time, the defense deductions amount to little more than an elaborate fairy tale. I'm afraid that's how the logical reasoning the British are known for really works, young stripling. The victim was shot in that little room on Fresno Street and died instantly? I'm afraid it's the prosecution's claim. That's the only fairy tale here. How can you say that? Quite simply, because that claim directly contradicts a certain piece of evidence in our possession. Very tantalizing, counsel. I think you had better explain yourself to the court, don't you? Prosecution claims that Inspector Gregson died instantly when he was shot at the scene on Fresno Street. But this evidence clearly contradicts that claim. Oh. We stripping? No one's stripping, bro. No stripping in my chat room. Is it why? Because he's so curled up? Must be because he was so curled up.
Take that!
A photograph of the victim in the very location you claim he wasn't killed? Yes, but the point is, the posture of the body itself. If Inspector Gregson had been shot there in that room, it's out of the question that his body would have been curled up in a ball like that. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but your logic is flawed. You could easily have been adopted that photo position due to the pain of the shot, which subsequently proved fatal.
Objection!
I'm sorry to disappoint you, Judge Shikoku, but it's your logic that is flawed. What? According to this autopsy report, the victim died instantly. He would have felt no pain, much less been able to draw himself into that position. Ah. Which begs the question of why the victim's body is curled up in that way. Though, the answer should be abundantly clear by now. You're suggesting... The inspector's body took on that posture ahead of its arrival on Fresno Street, before it was coldly turned out on the floor. From the inside of a large travel trunk. You're quite right. The shape of the body looks exactly as if it's been kept in a confined space. Judge Shikoku, present your truck for examination. I believe it's very possible that it will contain traces of the victim's blood. Oh, Present my trunk? I refuse. What? On what grounds? I'm the Minister of Foreign Affairs from the Empire of Japan. I knew this is what he was gonna do. I shouldn't have to put up with this treatment just because of some stripling's baseless accusations. In other words, Judge Shikoku, there's blood in your trunk. I decline to answer that. As the Minister of Foreign Affairs, I have privileges that allow me to... Shut up. At this moment, you're not a government minister. You're a witness in the trial in Britain's highest court. I don't care who you are or what your status outside this courtroom might be. You will not withhold information. Nothing is more important than the truth. On the court. Yes. Well, Mr. Shikoku, what's it to be? You can't be serious. You did it? Have you no shame at all, Kazuma Osogi? What? Very well. I admit it. I did bring the inspector's body into the country. Inside my trunk, exactly as postulated by the defense. What? You... Dear God! Outrageous! So it was you! You admit that... Oh, shit. One of these times, you're gonna slam that fucking thing broken. Mendez. Mofo Karen. Like, look at his name, bro. Mofo talking about presenting evidence when he too pussy to bring evidence. Tell him, Bendy. No, I admit to nothing more than what I've said. Of killing the man, I certainly have no recollection. What on earth is that cryptic statement supposed to mean? I merely disposed of the inspector's body, which was left in my cabin, in order to avoid unwanted attention. As the judicial assistant over there pointed out, I had no chance to throw it into the ocean. So, I decided my only option was to bring it into Britain with me and dispose of it somewhere else. You can't still deny if you didn't do it. And who on earth did kill the man? As you know, there was one other person in my cabin that night. He had the opportunity. And moreover, he'd already accepted a mission to take the inspector's life. Oh, he's trying to throw... Oh, look at him trying to throw people under the bus, bro. That's right. Who else could it have been? It was you, Kazuma Osogi. You. I never thought you'd stoop to this, Seshiro Jikoku. You're taking the words straight out of my mouth, Prosecutor Kazuma Asogi. You thought by leaving the body in my cabin you could pin the crime on me, did you? Well, prosecution counsel has already admitted to visiting the witness's cabin on the night in question. Yes, on an assassination mission, no less. You wouldn't. So, what do you make of that, young stripling? You've heard my testimony now, and that's all I have to say on the matter. I'll admit to nothing more. I don't believe this. Counsel for the defense. What is your position now? The court awaits your response to the witness's assertion. The assertion that on the night in question, the victim's assailant was in fact Mr. Kazuma Asogi. This isn't the dead end it seems to be. The answer's right in front of me. My name is beautiful, your name is gross. Lots of fist slamming. I know, people are mad. Comes down to Jikoku, or Kazuma. Both of them had the opportunity to kill Gregston, but only one of them did it. And I'm just a step away from proving who. Very well, the defense is ready to respond to the assertion put forward by Judge Jikoku. The idea that the victim's murder could have been committed by Prosecutor Asogi is... Judge Jikoku, let me remind you of something you said only a few minutes ago. You claim that logic reasoning is the future of the judicial process. It is. No question. Well, logical reasoning can prove something here. Namely, that it would have been impossible for Prosecutor Asogi to commit the crime. What? The court will only accept an argument that is supposed to be compelling evidence. So present what you have, counsel. What proof is there that allegedly demonstrates the impossibility of Prosecutor Asogi's involvement? Following departure from Dunkirk, all crew members are required to assemble. Oh yeah, because he would have already gone off the boat.
Take that!
It's itinerary for crew members of the SS Grouse, my lord. This is conclusive proofs. An itinerary? How does that prove anything? Judge Jikoku, the moment you acknowledge that you found the victim's body in your cabin, this itinerary suddenly became much more significant. What? Why? On the night in question, as always, a crewman sentry was on guard outside of your cabin door. As long as he was there, nobody could have fired a shot inside the cabin. Absolutely. Because it's inconceivable that the guard wouldn't have heard it and come to investigate. Would have heard it and come to investigate. So that tells us that the crime must have taken place when the guard was elsewhere. And that narrows it down to 20 minutes just after 10 o'clock, as indicated on the itinerary. Yes, I see no flaw in your reasoning so far. But the crucial point is this. When the evacuation drill took place, the steamship had already put to sea from the port of Dunkirk. Ah. Now, clearly the murder could have only been committed by someone who was aboard the vessel at the time. Well, the prosecutor Asogi stated in yesterday's proceedings. Spent that night at a boarding house in town and returned to England the following morning. Which I'm sure the court will agree is conclusive proof that Kazuma Asogi couldn't possibly have carried out the killing. I love this fucking song, bro. He's gonna break the stand again. No, absolutely not. I don't accept that at all. What do you mean? The boy's just saying that to exonerate himself. We can't trust that he really disembarked the vessel. Obviously, after he left my camera, he hid himself somewhere nearby on the ship. Just waiting for his chance to come back and finish the... No, that's out of the question. Isn't it, Kazuma? As the defense rightly recalls, I disembarked the vessel and spent the night in a boarding house in Dunkirk. As I said yesterday, I signed my name in the accommodations register book. All extremely easy to verify and undeniable proof. No, there's no escaping. There's no escape this time. You can forget that you're a judge or a government minister. It's time you gave the court an honest answer as a common man. Oh, he's gonna break it. He's gonna break it. You killed Inspector Tobias Gregson and transported his corpse back to Britain. Then you dumped the body in the room on Fresno Street and made it look as if the murder had happened there. That's what really happened, isn't it? Seshiro Jikoku. It was that damn trial 10 years ago. That's when all this began. Yeah, he's gonna break it again. Looking back now, my fate was decided that day. I was doomed already. Oh, there it goes again. There it goes again. It's over. My life is over. Wow. Just like that, huh? A British assassin to eliminate a professor in Japan. A Japanese assassin to eliminate a detective in Britain. Both assassins will use diplomatic immunity to evade conviction and return safely to their homelands. The assassin exchange request arrived from Britain about 1 year ago. Though it was hardly a request, it was a demand. And for that, you decided to recruit Mr. Osogi. But things didn't go according to plan. You chose an assassin never made it to Britain, and you found yourself unable to dispatch a replacement. Because I was already on my way to Britain at that time in Cosmo's place. And that left me with only one option for carrying out my obligation. To eliminate the mark myself, personally. Of course, there was but a single opportunity for me to do that. The International Forensic Science Symposium, I presume? That's right. I decided it would be safest to carry out the plan before my arrival in Britain. So I enlisted the help of my British counterpart. I made arrangements for a pretext that would take the inspector to Dunkirk. To lure the man in, he was given a sham mission by the Reaper. What? The Reaper? Well, there's only one person who could have done that. The mastermind of the entire operation, the Reaper himself. Ah. So that means that the assassin exchange was all planned by the Reaper? I'm not at liberty to say anything about my British counterpart. Anyway, the inspector accepted the Reaper's mission and dutifully infiltrated my cabin on the steamship. Well, it was all a trap designed to lead him to France and his own death. Oh, how awful. It was past 9 o'clock when I returned to my cabin from the dining hall that evening. I didn't give him the time to attack me. I choked him until he lost consciousness. Oh, wow. Well, there was a guard just outside the door, so I left it at that for the time being. Even the slightest noise might have aroused suspicion, so I bided my time waiting. For the 20 minutes after 10 o'clock. I intended to finish him by strangulation, but moments before I had the chance, he suddenly came around and went for me in a reckless move. I'd received a British-issue gun 16 years earlier, being a member of the judiciary as a visiting student. They gave the motherfucker a gun? I never imagined I'd have to use it for something like that. So the revolver belongs to you, does it? Then the victim was killed inside your cabin on the SS Grouse. Which begs the question of why you arranged for his body to be discovered in the room on Fresno Street. The young judicial assistant over there has already answered that question. There's no way I could take the body up on deck to throw it over the side. That's precisely where all the crewmen were gathered for the evacuation drill. So before the first-class cabin sentries returned, I took the corpse to the refrigeration room. Then on arriving in Dover, you concealed the body in your trunk in order to smuggle it past the border police. I knew I needed to take steps if the police were to be able to be convinced when the body was found in London. In that case, you must have known. You must have an intimate details of Inspector Gregson's intended schedule. Yes, my British counterpart sent me everything I needed to know. The inspector was due at Fresno Street at 5 o'clock that afternoon. So who is this counterpart? It's got to be Strongheart. in order to meet a man by the name of Hugh Boone, from whom he would take back his police identification. Ah. I decided that man would be the perfect person to set up as a culprit. So I took a hackney carriage over there with the body still in my trunk. That must have been just after we took this photograph with you at the hotel then. Yes, I wasn't expecting a welcoming committee. I was more than a little nervous. On Fresno Street, I spotted a young girl selling little firecrackers. Miss Venus, of course. I conceived of the candle trick there, and then... So I donned a simple disguise and approached the girl to buy enough firecrackers to replicate a gunshot. What sort of disguise? For some reason, the inspector had a bright red hairpiece in his own traveling case. So I put that on. Although I suspect I drew more attention to myself than I would have otherwise. Hairpiece was found at the scene. The inspector had it ready for the Red-Headed League investigation. I only arrived at the room at around 4:45. So I quickly placed the body on the floor, moved the notice board, and set up my little candle trick. I arranged it so the firecrackers would go off with a bang around 15 minutes later. So that Mr. Boone, who was due to arrive at 5, would walk straight into a trap? Except, at the last moment, I made a careless blunder. What was that? I imagine it was the bag of fish and chips. Ah. I didn't notice that it had fallen out of his overcoat pocket when I moved the body to the refrigeration room. I put it back into his pocket the following morning, but... Well, it seems the warmth of the heated cabin had accelerated the decay of the fish. Anyway, that's everything. All the sordid details of what I did. He broke the stand, bro. There's no stand. I've heard enough. We've arrived at the truth about the murder of one of the country's most capable and respected police inspectors. The witness will be tried in the coming days. For a crime of such a vile nature, you can expect the most severe penalty. An exchange of assassins. What a foolhardy idea. Mr. Jikoku, one last detail. Who was your counterpart in Britain? Who was the mastermind behind the assassin exchange? Say his name. Say his name. You're already going to hell. Say his name. Nothing you say now can make matters any worse for you. Just tell us. Enough. I've already told you that I cannot say. Even though as things stand, you may very well never set foot in your homeland again. Obviously, this isn't over. This isn't the end of the game. 100%. What are you waiting for? Can we get this over with now? Yeah, see, he's trying to cover up, bro. It's finished. All of it. I'm finished. Then, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I now pronounce the findings of this court. This man before us had admitted to the willful murder of Tobias Gregson. There's gonna be a hold it moment, bro. There's gotta be a hold it moment. Toshiro Jikoku, it is the opinion of this court that you should be found. Hold it. Should no hold it moment? And may I remind all those present of the strict confidentiality demanded by this closed court. Wow, nothing? There's gotta be something else. Moments ago, Mr. Jikoku signed a written confession admitting to the murder of Inspector Gregson and the subsequent conveyance of the body. In short, the defendant's innocence has therefore been established beyond doubt. Oh, wonderful. Well done, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, thank you. Everybody's all bittersweet about it. Is something wrong? I'm just a little troubled by his silence. The true identity of the Reaper of the Bailey and this extraordinary assassin exchange. We do remain in the dark about these mysteries. However, insofar as the indictment brought against the defendant in this trial, we have reached a conclusion. Oh, no fucking shit, Susato, motherfucker. Yo, Gorilla, please. I have every intention of pursuing both mysteries. As a prosecutor. As you wish. Now, for the formal adjudication. I hereby declare the defendant, Balrog Van Zykes.
Objection!
I knew it. Is that Herlock? I think that was Sholmes. Or was that Kazuma? Oh, it was Kazuma. Nah, let me add it. Prosecution calls for adjudication to be deferred. Counsel? The accused's innocence hasn't been fully established at all. And therefore, it would be wrong to deliver a verdict at this time. That is the prosecution's unwavering position. What? But Judge Chikoku has already confessed. Nevertheless, Balrog Van Zykes has committed crimes for which he must be punished. Well, it would appear you have information that the court needs to hear, Prosecutor Asogi. Certainly, the murder of Inspector Grezza was actually carried out by Sashiro Jikoku. But it's clear from the witness's testimony that he was coerced into complying with the plot to the sick, merciless assassin change. That may be true, but... So what I want to know is, who coerced Jikoku? Who was pulling the strings? The victim went to France having been ordered on a mission for the Reaper, only to be murdered. In other words, the mastermind behind the assassin exchange is someone in a position to give such an order. And it's definitely not Van Zykes, bro, as we've already established. The Reaper himself. Well, certainly. That would appear to follow. The prosecution hereby formally accuses the man in the dock. Yo, why does he hates him to death, bro. Of being the Reaper of the Bailey, and furthermore, I'm going to prove his guilt beyond all reasonable doubt. What? Reaper of the Bailey is a long-standing mystery, Counsel. Are you suggesting that you have some new information with which to build the case? So they can get strong art? Oh, probably. Scotland Yard has already investigated Lord Van Zykes very thoroughly in that regard. And they found no evidence whatsoever to substantiate the claim that he is the Reaper. Perhaps. But circumstances have now changed. What do you mean? It's already been established that the assassin exchange was negotiated with Jikoku by the Reaper himself. Which means, we now have a new line of questioning by which to identify definitively the man's identity. That is the prosecution's intention here. I must say I'm surprised by quite how tenaciously you appear to want to besmirch my name. You are guilty of an unforgivable crime, Lord Van Zykes. And I will bring you to justice for it, whatever it takes. That explains Kazuma's silence before. He'll stop at nothing to finish what Lord Van Zykes unwittingly started 10 years ago. Very well. Whilst it's extremely irregular, I will on this occasion grant the prosecution further opportunity for the witness testimony. The defendant will disclose any and all involvement he has with the Reaper in the assassin exchange. I thank you, my lord, for guiding the court so wisely. I hereby declare this court to be in session for a supplementary hearing. Pray turn a blind eye to the discourtesy as I verify this vile and unremitting accusation. How does it source the contents of my hollow chalice? Has it soured, my bad? Lord Van Zykes? I first had to suffer the pseudonym of the Reaper 10 years ago now. And ever since that time, I've endured the weight of the implied guilt that's gone with it. So I welcome the chance to testify now and crush those allegations once and for all. Good. Then let justice decide, Lord Van Zykes. The prosecution seeks to begin building its case by calling the accused to the stand as the primary witness, in order that he may answer the accusation brought by the prosecution that he is the Reaper of the Bailey.
Don't talk to me, man.
And what says the defense? Excuse me. Putting the defendant in the witness's stand can be extremely dangerous. And Kazuma-sama is so emotional at the moment, he's not thinking logically. You're right that he's not himself. But I knew it would be like this, and I came here today to determine to face him through whatever might arise. As a lawyer, and as his friend. Then that's what we must do. The defense has no objection, my lord. In his chat, don't you? Very well. Defendant, you will take the witness stand and give formal testimony on the subject of your involvement with the Reaper and the assassin exchange. As you wish, my lord. I've never taken the life of another, nor have I instructed another to kill. I've been investigating the truth behind the Reaper for years, and I was aware of Gregson's involvement. That's the reason why I went to Fresno Street that day, and how I came to discover the body. The point is, no common thread exists between myself, Gregson, and Dr. Wilson. Clearly, therefore, there's no reason to suspect me of being behind the assassin exchange. So you deny all accusations by the prosecution? Both that you are the Reaper of the Bailey, and that you masterminded the assassin exchange? I acknowledge that the public at large believe me to be the Reaper. However, that's a fallacy, which I alone I am in position to forswear. Naturally, the prosecution believes the testimony just given by the accused to be untrue. Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Yes? Let me ask you, why are you here? What really brings you to this courtroom? A desire to uncover the truth. Even if the truth proves your client to be guilty? From all my experiences in this courtroom, I've come to realize something. The truth can't be hidden. Sooner or later, it will come out. So it's always my intention to work with my client in pursuit of the truth. I want you to remember what you just said. Enough dilatory chatter. Counsel for the defense, proceed to cross-examine the witness. Ah, yes, my lord. I know exactly what you're thinking, Kazuma. I know you're just waiting to point it out. Contradiction you're convinced lies somewhere within this man's testimony. Because he says he doesn't have any connections with Gregson. But he does, obviously. We have to press something. Let me just press, bro. Let me just press. So you're not with the general public? Hold on. Sorry, my bad. Give me 1 second. So you're not what the general public referred to as the infamous Reaper of the Bailey? Exactly. Don't imagine for a moment that court will be satisfied with a one-word answer of this. I realize that. If you're intending to comment on every sentence, this could take a while, Kazuma. Didn't you find it disturbing, though, that one by one, defendants who'd been acquitted after your unsuccessful prosecution were killed? Let me answer the question by posing another. If one by one the defendants who'd been acquitted after your successful defense were killed, would you find that disturbing? Disturbing? I couldn't possibly say how that would make me feel with a one-word answer like that. Exactly. But even though I'm not the Reaper, that doesn't mean I ignored all the hearsay.
Hold it!
You say for years. How long exactly? Since the very first time the Reaper's influence was felt in this courtroom. 10 years ago now. Your investigation led you somehow to Inspector Gregson, you're saying? I didn't want to believe it. He was a personal acquaintance. We worked on cases together in the past. A friend. A friend, even? Felt like betrayal, but I demanded permission to search his office at the yard without his knowledge. Which is when you found his secret notebook, is it? It's when I first learned of the location, he noted it only as grouse, and the appointment at 5 p.m. on the 31st. Though I didn't know the significance of those details at the time. So now we're at the nub of the matter. As it turns out, the significance for me personally is very unfortunate.
Hold it!
But why did you go to that specific location? I thought if it was the Reaper's headquarters, then by turning up there at 5 o'clock I would catch whoever was involved red-handed. Sadly, all that was awaiting me was the inspector's corpse. Yes, even though it wasn't designed for you, you walked straight into the trap set by Chikoku. Exactly. Chikoku had intended to implicate Hugh Boone. But unhappily for me, I arrived at the scene first. A ridiculous, careless blunder. Moved on to just throwing insults around, I see then, Kazuma. Think what you will. It doesn't change the truth.
Hold it!
There was a link between you and Gregson, though. Of course. We were close acquaintances. We worked on numerous cases together. And considered the man to be a mentor of sorts, he taught me a number of important lessons. He did? Such as what? Where to buy good fish and chips, and such like. Well, that was convincing. Dr. Wilson was a coroner, of course, but that was some time in the past. In any case, I understand it was several years ago now that he was invited to work at a Japanese university. That's right. He was a visiting professor at the Imperial Yume University in Tokyo. It should be unambiguously clear that no link exists between myself and him. In other words, I had no motive for sending some assassin across the oceans to kill the man. Sounds plausible enough. I want to believe it. Something about this just doesn't sit quite right with me. It's his brother's autopsy report.
Objection!
What is this? An autopsy report? Wait, this is 10 years old. On the autopsy of Lord Clint Van Zykes. What? My brother's autopsy report? I'm pleased to see the defense doesn't intend to run from the undeniable truth. Order in court. What reason do you have for presenting a 10-year-old autopsy report here, counsel? The autopsy report of the professor's final victim, is an indelible link between Inspector Gregson, Dr. Wilson, and the defendant. Not that accursed name again, the professor. I personally researched all of the court records relating to that case. I know that at the time, autopsy was considered sacrilege to the victim's souls. And for a member of the aristocracy like Lord Clint Van Zykes, it was unthinkable. But someone implored the powers that be to allow the autopsy to go ahead, Inspector Gregson. He declared that he was certain he would obtain conclusive proof from the procedure. And it was Dr. Wilson who conducted the autopsy. His signature is clearly visible in the document. As promised by Gregson, the autopsy did indeed produce evidence. Evidence that conclusively proved Genshin Asogi was guilty of the murders. In my brother's dying moments, he mustered all his remaining strength to leave that vital clue behind. Indeed, that was the key to indicating the professor for his crimes and the conclusive evidence that convicted him. And he enabled Lord Van Zykes here to avenge his brother's senseless death with a marvelous victory in court.
Yo, slow down, bro.
A marvelous victory, was it? I wonder if that's really true. What? Could the same be said if it turned out that the key piece of evidence in question was in fact fabricated? If the inspector, the coroner, and the prosecutor all colluded together to cast an innocent Japanese man as a mass murderer and send him to his death. That's outrageous. And now, 10 years later, for some reason, the secret has been threatened and needs protecting. Which is why the inspector and the coroner had to be silenced, isn't it? By someone in power in Japan and in Britain, using the two killers recruited for the assassin exchange. "10 years ago, my father was convicted in this very courtroom as a mass murderer, to be sentenced to death. But it was all a sham, and I swore to myself that I'd prove it. Which is why I had to come to Britain. Whatever the cost." You'll have to forgive me if I feel compelled to toast this vengeful, Nipponese tenacity of purpose here. I'll say it right. However, he who fails to quash his emotions in the courtroom has failed as a lawyer. Come on, Kazuma, you know this won't wash. You're claiming your father was misrepresented in a trial that took place a whole decade ago. You must see that without evidence, that's nothing more than a wild accusation. As it happens, I have evidence. What? As the court has heard, I crossed the channel to France with Gregson on the 31st. I went with him on the pretext of being the assassin recruited to kill Sashiro Jigoku. But my true intentions were to make the inspector tell me the truth. What truth? The truth about the evidence. And he acknowledged what I already deduced. There's a closely guarded secret about what went on in that autopsy 10 years ago. What? A secret? I know nothing of any secret. While we waited for my supposed mark at Jigoku's cabin, I drew my clan's illustrious sword, Kuruma, before the inspector's eyes. He very quickly understood what my true motive was. Right, I see. You're that Asogi's young lad, aren't you? And what, you're gonna cut me down with that thing? Is that it? That will very much depend on the answers you give to my questions. I want to know what really happened 10 years ago. The truth, that's all. Before we get into it, let me make one thing clear. I still believe your father was the professor. There's no doubt in my mind. But, unfortunately, back then, we didn't have the evidence we needed to make the crime stick. So, you admit it then? The evidence used in my father's trial was fabricated? It was for the good of the country. Oh, wow. Anyway, I was just following orders. Orders? What exactly did you do? Speak! I'm not saying another word. Even if your life depends on it? That's right. Even then. So that's when the tip of the sword broke. Oh, Kazuma-sama. If the results of Clint Van Zyke's autopsy were fabricated, then the investigating officer, Gregson, and the lead coroner, Wilson, must have known about it. They can only have been ordered to pervert the course of justice in that way by one man. The man leading the case for the prosecution, Barak Van Zykes. In other words, the defendant did have cause to organize this exchange of assassins. Exactly. It was, and as was established earlier, it had to have been the Reaper himself who what the fuck? With Jigoku, Japan to arrange the exchange. Series 8, Larry? There is no Larry, bruh. Ah. So it follows that the Reaper's true identity can only be that of the man who stands accused in this courtroom today, Barak Van Zykes.
Objection!
Kazuma Asogi. What? Well, you've just told the court Are you absolutely certain of your facts? Did Gregson really fabricate evidence for that trial 10 years ago? I heard it with my own ears. His shameful admission. In that case, I know. The name of the Reaper.
Oh! Yo, slow down, bro.
I feel like the Reaper is his dead brother. No, it's gonna be. I guarantee you, it's Strongheart. Lord Van Zykes? I gave no such orders. I know that for certain. Which narrows down the remaining possibilities to one. Because guess who was supposed to be the prosecutor instead of Van Zykes? Got him, boys. Got him. Time for Great Ace Attorney 3, dropping summer of 2024. I heard this game was supposed to be a trilogy or something, right? I apologize. I will see myself out. No, don't go. Hey, where you going? I just said slow down, man. If Lord Van Zykes isn't the one behind all this, then yes, there is only one other person who could have done something like that. I believe I know who it is too. You? I just had a feeling this name was going to come up. The true identity of the infamous Reaper of the Bailey is... After I piss. There you go. Hey, welcome back, man. All good now. W. Alright, hold on. Which would be him. He literally has all the power in the world.
Take that!
The only person who could have arranged the assassin exchange and manipulated the autopsy results. Professor's a killer, no? Ah, you're right. I don't know. He could be all in one. Is the Lord Chief Justice himself, Lord Mael Strongheart? What? Lord Strongheart? Yes, it's true that 10 years ago, the defendant handled the prosecution of the professor in court. But he only took over the case after his brother, Lord Clinton Van Zykes, had been killed. I can only assume that this is the most inappropriate joke in British judicial history. Well, Lord Van Zykes, 10 years ago, I was very new to my profession. But I had a burning desire to avenge my brother's death, so I pleaded for control of the case. The investigation to that point, the supplication of the Lords to allow my brother's corpse to be examined. All the evidence I was given, the autopsy reports, it all came from you. I've spent my life since then believing I was in your debt for the way you stood aside and let me handle the trial. But I see now. I was very much mistaken. It was a hugely influential force that caused the inspector and coroner to break the law 10 years ago.
I bet it's Gorilla.
Bro, shit. And that same force was still felt a decade later on the other side of the world by Sashiro Jigoku.
God, I fucking hate Twitch.
L Twitch, bro.
Everything falls into place when we recognize that you
Are the Reaper of the Bailey. The court awaits your response, my lord. This may very well go down in British judicial history, but I assure you, it is no joke. Consider this a formal accusal by the defense. Doesn't warrant a response. A formal accusal? Don't be absurd. The defense's claims are utter nonsense, a wild fantasy at best. You're not going to defend yourself? You claim there was some wrongdoing with Lord Clint Van Zykes' autopsy? That's utterly untrue.
Objection!
But I heard it from Gregson's own lips. He admitted to it. And where's your evidence? What? Gregson's dead now. Unless you were thinking of summoning a ghost to the stand. You mean to say... Forget how the system works in your little backwater country. But in the courts of the British Empire, without evidence, there is no case. I have no intentions of entertaining some wild fantasy that can't possibly be substantiated by another or anything. By anyone or anything. Following Inspector Greggs' murder and in the light of Dr. Wilson's death as well, there's really no one left who could testify about the events 10 years ago, is there? So that was the real purpose of the assassin exchange. Oh. So no one could testify about the professor, so they got rid of Gregson and this court has no business raking over the coals of a case that was concluded a decade ago. The accusal brought by the prosecution and the defense is categorically denied. I take it there are no objections? Kazuma. He's more or less waited his whole life for this moment. Is there really nothing else we can do now? Is there no other avenue we can go down and pursue the truth about what happened all those years ago? Mikotoba! We gotta call, because I guess he doesn't know that Mikotoba actually was the one that wrote the autopsies. Wilson just put the signs there. Or he signed it off. There's only someone who could testify about Clint Van Zyke's autopsy. There is someone. He's gone to extraordinary lengths to cover his tracks. Even so far as dispatching an assassin all the way to Japan to ensure Dr. Wilson's silence. Dr. Scythe won't say anything against Strongheart.
Be a good plot for Judgment 3.
They probably would. But there's still only one ray of hope.
Objection.
Actually, there is one person who could testify about that autopsy. Don't be ridiculous. There's no one left. Who, Ryunosuke? Who? Tell me. Kazuma, Please, this trial can't end. Not yet. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for the truth. The person in defense would like to call this stand to testify about the autopsy of Lord Clint Van Zykes. Mikotoba.
Take that!
Heaven help us. Another Japanese? That's kind of racist, bro. An expert in forensic medicine, my lord. Professor Yujin Mikotoba, 16 years ago. He came to London with Sashiro Jikoku and Genshin Asogi as a visiting student. What could his testimony possibly tell us? Professor Mikotoba was a primary assistant during the autopsy in question. He was also the person who actually penned the report. Incorrect. The autopsy was carried out by the coroner, Dr. Wilson. The report carries his signature. It was the primary assistant's duty to keep a written record of the coroner's work during the procedure. In actual fact, the coroner merely read over the report at the end of it and signed it. In other words, Professor Mikotoba witnessed the entire autopsy from start to finish. The defense demands that Professor Mikotoba be summoned as a witness as a matter of urgency. Whatever really happened in that autopsy laboratory 10 years ago is something only he could tell us. He's gonna deny it. The defense's demand is denied. I fucking knew it. I fucking knew it, bro. What?
Professor Mikotoba is in London at this very moment. We could summon him to the stand in minutes.
No, of course he's not going to agree to it. Strongheart has no intention of summoning anyone who knows. He's too concerned about protecting himself. Prosecutor Sogi, let me refresh your memory as you seem to have forgotten the prosecution's stance. Only minutes ago, you accused the defendant of being the reaper and of the mastermind of the assassin exchange. I did, yes. So present your evidence for those claims and make your case complete. At this time, I don't have the requisite evidence. But that's exactly why we need this witness testimony. The professor case is closed. There are no clues in the distant past that will bolster your argument today. I'm afraid to say, Prosecutor Asogi, that you would appear to be possessed by the spirit of your late homicidal father. Now, as I stated earlier, this court has reached a conclusion with respect to the matter at hand. Inspector Gregson was murdered by Japanese Supreme Court Judge Sashiro Jikoku. The defendant is Lord Van Zykes. You'll see him in a second. As for any hidden circumstances that may exist, they will be investigated in due course by the proper authorities.
Objection.
But we all know what will happen. That'll just give the mastermind of the whole venture time to cover his tracks again. By which you mean me? Your punishment for this contemptible behavior will be decided at a later date. As for you, Prosecutor Asogi, you will be remanded following these proceedings. Willingly, I trust, since you gave your word. What a bastard! This futile game of revenge is over, young Master Asogi. Hold it. Who is it? Is it Sholmes? Please have it be Sholmes. Yes, baby! Let's go! Oh my god. Mr. Sholmes? This is no place for amateur detection, Mr. Sholmes. May I remind you that these proceedings are closed to this general public. You will leave the courtroom at once.
Objection.
Mr. Sholmes was instrumental in the apprehension of Seshiro Jikoku before he fled from Europe. The court should hear what he has to say. Herlock Sholmes, let's go, Lord Mail Strongheart. It's imperative that you refrain from bringing this trial to an end at this stage. Is it really? And why would that be? You need only recall your own words from the opening of the trial to answer that question, if I may. We will stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. Surely it can't be. That the shock of being accused of being the Reaper yourself has erased that from your memory, can it? The whole truth, sir, has already been uncovered. It would seem that we have a great many important members of the judiciary present here today. I put it to you, my dear fellows. Should the trial end at this juncture? After all, why have you been invited to attend? To nod along to the prevarications of your superiors? It seems to me that we stand before a door that leads to a new era of legal practice. A door that is ajar. Let us emerge from the shadows of the Reaper's decade-long ascendancy. For you and you alone, my dear fellows, have the power to push this door open now. The auditors in the gallery have no right to express an opinion on the court proceedings. Silence. He's right. The judge has absolute authority here. Yes, if he calls the trial to an end, it must end. But will that really do? I sense dark things occurring behind the scenes. Dark things indeed.
Is there a single person here who can...
Oh, wow.
What's... Trial should go on. Summon the witness.
That's right, we need to clear up... Oh, wow, I couldn't see it. I couldn't hear. I couldn't read it. Look at Asogi, bro. He's about to cry. Let's go, Sholmes. My lord, you assured those present that you would uncover the whole truth here. Vindicate yourself on this outlandish accusation. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. That's the very foundation of British law. A toast to my dependable colleagues in the gallery. Testify. 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 Well, my lord? I love Sholmes, man. How can you hate Sholmes, bro? You hear the voice of the British justice, I take it? I think you'll find it will be rather awkward to silence. The court will recess briefly. I have no intention of shrinking from these allegations. Bailiff, arrange for the subpoena of the witness at once. As soon as the gentleman arrives at the courthouse, we shall reconvene. A recess won't be necessary, my lord. He's right here. Look at him trying to squirm away. What a little bitch. He tried to squirm away so bad. Pardon? Mikotoba is a close friend of mine. He accompanied me today and is waiting in the antechamber as we speak. I do believe he's been enjoying a little trip down memory lane, in fact. What? Professor Mikotoba is here in the courthouse? Mr. Sholmes, you didn't know this would happen, did you? My dear fellow, no one is in a better position to answer that question than you, surely. I wasn't just asking for the fun of it, you know. Where the fuck do you hear testicles? Shake my head, buddy. This is Goose Chat. True. That is Gorilla for you. He says whack shit. Well, I must thank you for your assistance in this matter, Mr. Sholmes. However, you are of no further use here. Kindly leave the courtroom at once. But of course, in truth, I find myself rather busy now as a result of these developments. Mr. Naruhodo? Ah, yes? I trust you have Iris's little lucky charm with you? Absolutely. It's still in my pocket. She sends her regards and a reminder. If you find yourself at a dead end, the ear's at your disposal. Just one tug, if you please. Oh, of course. So we're gonna use that thing again, it looks like. In that case, the trial will continue without delay. Bailiff, show the witness to the stand. He was listening to the whole case. Yep, he's been here the entire time. So it's Lord Strongheart. He's the Reaper of the Bailey. Where exactly is this trial going to take me, I wonder? Just how deep I'm about to be plunged into the blackness of the abyss. Well, I'm ready. I'm ready to head into the heart of this maelstrom and confront whatever hordes it tries to drown me under. Let's go! Sholmes is playing fucking 4D chess where everyone plays in the dirt. W. Sholmes, man. He acts dumb, but he's so smart. Man.